at all.
Wow.
Oh dear.
He only had one brother, and he annoyed me greatly because he really never showed up too much, you know what I mean? Even when Father Gaynor had been sick and he wasn't around.
Oh, this is your mom, I bet.
Indeed, he used to get very upset with him, but he was there for the wake.
Yeah, when it was all over.
The inherit everything that was left.
Yeah. It's sad, isn't it?
It is, it really is. They
Yeah.
never did a thing for him. Even when he had his 50th anniversary and they had hundreds of people from Auburn went to it, you know.
Yeah.
But what's his name didn't come down. Ed didn't come down.
Yeah.
No reason why he couldn't have. And but he did all right. And then but he only lived 2 years. He died.
Yeah.
He died.
Was Father Gaynor a happy man?
Pardon?
Was he a happy man? Was he Father Gaynor?
Yeah, really, no. I mean, the funniest things that bother him, I mean, I'm gonna.
Beautiful.
You were saying about Father Gaynor?
I said he wouldn't be around you or anything like that, but he was always, you know, upset by things around him, things that just didn't go right, you know, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to say, don't let it bother you. What do you care whether they do it or not, or whether they don't do this, you know, or not?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the changes in the church that blew him off, you know.
He was very conservative.
Yeah, so very conservative. Yeah, very. But he was. But then when I was still in the state, you know, she was all over. He was doing all right by Ed because in this checkbook there was a $2,000 check about every week or every month or something like that going out, you know.
Wow.
So I said, boy, he didn't do bad for it. But I wouldn't have cared if he'd been, you know, been thoughtful of him or anything. But he wasn't.
Yeah.
And that's what I thought. I don't care what you get, but you could at least be nice to your own brother.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Interesting. Going back we talked earlier about Dr. DeFurio. In my recall, that he was like Father Gaynor in a different sense. He was omnipresent. Whenever there was a problem, I remember Kevin having asthma attack as a kid, and Dr. Richards or something, the doctor at the prison wouldn't help Dad, and it was DeFurio that came to the rescue. And it always seemed like in Paulie's case and other issues, DeFurio was always there in some way, shape, or form.
Well, he was a good surgeon, and I will say for him, in his early days, he had a book like this of people that owed him money, but he never done anybody for money, you know what I mean? And of course, because he was an Italian doctor, you know, he had every Italian in the city practically, you know what I mean? That's true. But he had his own mind. He didn't, if he didn't like what somebody did, why he said so. You know, sometimes I think, you know, but he was a kind person. It'd kill him if anybody died. Kill him. I can remember being at the house. He'd come in. You could tell when he walked in the house something went wrong. The face would be this long, you know, and he said, "Well, it shouldn't have been that way. He shouldn't have died," you know, and so on and so forth. So he was concerned as far as his patients went. I will say that for him. But of course, he had the stigma of being Italian, you know, and in Auburn that wasn't too good because you know, a lot of the people thought that, you know, didn't go to him.
Yeah. Where did he come from?
Syracuse.
From Syracuse.
Yeah.
And he married Paul's sister. So is that his entree into Auburn?
Well, no, he was here at the Auburn Memorial. He came up here.
He was here first.
And he was practicing before they were married. Practicing down on Wall Street, I think it was. And then after they were married, before they were married, they moved down to Genesee Street. But she was a nurse for him at the hospital, I mean, and so on and so forth. Okay. And so, of course, everybody was astounded at the old Irish, you know, oh my God, this girl is marrying an Italian.
Was that the big scandal in town?
Yes, oh yes. You know, you had to sort of jump over it, that's all. But
was Paul supportive of that, or was he concerned as well?
Paul wouldn't care if he was Chinese. he was a doctor, he had money.
We have a doctor in the family, right? DeFurio and Kevin McCormick, we love it.
Right. So, but Paul and I, of course, we used to treat him just like you and I or anybody else. But Murph used to drive me nuts. I said to Paula, someday we'd be up at the house. We were up there quite a bit, you know. And there's one chair that the doctor always stayed at. So he'd come in, you know, from the office or something like that. And Murphy would jump up out of the chair. Anytime I'll jump up out of the chair to give him a chair. He can sit in another one if he wants to. He used to always drive me crazy when everybody's jumping up just because he was Dr. DeFurio, you know.
Wow.
So.
And you were very close to his family and to his kids growing up? And
Growing up I was, yes, because Josephine was in the hospital most of the time anyway, you know, and she loved hospitals.
As an employee and patient?
and I used to have Frankie from the time they were babies, you know, until they were 3 or 4 years old. And anytime she said to me one day, I said to her sort of before she died, you know, Joe, you know what I'm going to do? And she says, well, I'm going up to Ringling Brothers and buy a whole bunch of seasons tickets and give them to you. Because what she'd do, she'd buy all these, she had the money, she'd buy all of these things, you know, places to go and things to do. Then Marion and I get stuck with the kids. Here's the tickets, you know. I said, well, I think I've had enough about going to circuses and taking kids.
Oh, gosh.
So she always, I mean, he was always good, but we laugh because they used to put on dog a little bit, I think, once in a while for him. I never did. But
I remember when you took me to the circus with those tickets.
pardon?
I remember when you took me to the circus with those tickets.
Oh, sure we did pay it.
And you could buy whatever you wanted.
Everything that had come along. If it was a play, if it was anything, you know, Joe would get all the tickets, and then she'd say, "You and Marion doing anything this night?" You know, this much, you know. So we would take some. After we'd done this for several years, I said, "When I want to buy the tickets the next time, give them to you."
So you were like raising a whole nother family in addition to your own, right? Wow.
So that's why you're so close to those kids today.
Well,
right?
yes, because she was always going into the hospital, and she'd be gone, or they'd go on a trip to South America or something, you know. The kids would be left, you know. They'd take the ones that wanted to go,
Yeah.
leave the rest of them.
Yeah.
But he was a good guy. Only, as I say, I didn't believe in genuflecting in front of him.
Remember, he ran for mayor the same time that Dad ran for council.
Yeah, right.
And he was defeated by Paul Lattimore?
He got defeated by Lattimore, and that man, boy, was I mad that night. Because went with Dick and Charlotte and a bunch of them. We went down to the headquarters after the election, you know. Because I knew Dick would win anyways. I didn't know what was. I thought DeFurio would win too. I wasn't sure. We walked in, and of course they had faces on them like this because they lost, you know, down at headquarters. And no one come over and congratulated your father, and I was so mad. I told Josephine that I said I was never so insulted in my whole life. I said, you know, they were all wrapped up in their own little problem. She said, I know it was wrong, and I said, I know it was wrong because I said we come in, we're winners, and then they lost. So.
But I remember we then went to Reardon's that night, and then there was a very big celebration.
Yes, right. Oh, yes, right.
Yeah.
Then after we had plenty of people, it wasn't that we needed them, but we thought we should go down and offer our sympathy, you know. So that they didn't offer their congratulations.
Oh, wow.
But I think they were shocked, Rick. They didn't think he was going to lose. You know, that he would lose.
Yeah. So what was it like to have your brother on the city council in Auburn, your hometown?
Oh, dear Lord, I had to go around the block to avoid somebody. Like Bill McKeown or somebody, you know. Dick was a good thing. I wish he was on the city council now. Every time I watch the council meetings, you know, I think I wish Dick was there. But, I mean, he worked hard on the council. And I remember being at your house, and I don't know how your mother stood up. They'd sit down to eat dinner, the phone would ring, and be somebody that was having a problem with City Hall, and your father would have to run down and see if he could straighten them out, you know. And God, it was going on and on and on.
I can remember him, the council meetings were on Thursday evenings.
Yeah, right.
And he'd come home from work and get cleaned up and put his shirt and tie and suit on, his hat, and he would go off. And he would have read that material well in advance. He was so well prepared when he went to those meetings. It was like doing one's homework before you went out. So you're right. He really worked hard at that, and took some difficult decisions. When our house was picketed by the what is it? The housing people that cross and double cross people picketing in our front yards.
That's what I mean. The only thing that was different when your father was on there, and if he told somebody he'd do something, he did it. I mean, like the fireman would call him about this, or the policeman department would call him about that, or somebody else working somewhere else. And he'd say, "I'd meet you," and he'd straighten it out, by golly. I guess he fought with McKeown all the time. But I mean, I think that he had that reputation.
Mm-hmm.
And he did do it, because I can remember being at your house and listening to him talk to people on the phone. I said, "My God, you can't even have your dinner, this job."
Mm-hmm.
But he was good on the council.
Yeah, he had his own mind.
Yes, he had his own mind, that's right.
Yeah.
Maybe it was right, maybe it was wrong, but nevertheless, I mean,
Yeah.
But,
I remember soon after he was.
you see, what used to burn him up, Rick, and I know Charlotte told me this, every week at before the council meeting, Bill McKeown would send him a list of things to be done, at the meeting, and how they were supposed to vote and all that, And, oh God, that used to make him mad. And in no way was he going to be told by Bill McKeown how he could vote on this deal, And I know that Charlotte says, "Oh God, there'll be a riot tonight," because he and McKeown are...
I remember soon after Dad was elected, one of the first times that McKeown either came or sent that, he went off the wall. He was so angry. And either it's an image or a phone call I overheard, but he was setting McKeown straight. That I was elected, I appreciate your help, but I'm not going to be directed by you on how to vote. It was a very, very blue air at the time, but to his credit.
Well, I remember that Cheryl telling me, she said, "Oh, there'll be fire tonight." She says he's got another, every week he'd get, it was stupid of McKeown to be sending out the councilmen. They're grown men, and they can vote how they want to, but he'd tell them how to vote on this thing, it's coming up, and sure you vote this way. And of course he wouldn't vote that way then anyways. So.
Another question, Peg. We spoke earlier today about Edmund LaValle, the fellow who was the superintendent of Dad's graduating class in 1941. If you fast forward to the end of Dad's life, LaValle comes into the picture again as the warden at Auburn. And my recall is that LaValle gave Dad a really hard time in his final years. No, in Auburn. His dad was approaching the end of his life. That LaValle had come to be the warden at Auburn.
Yeah, well, that was, oh my God.
What was Dad saying to you then? He was in the yard in the winter, and he was trying to get, because he had heart problems, and he was trying to get inside work, and LaValle kept him out in the yard.
Right.
I remember it being a very difficult time.
It was a difficult time, but of course, he wouldn't give him the satisfaction. He wouldn't give LaValle the satisfaction to think that he wasn't able to do what he was assigned him to, Of course, he wasn't very good at that time, But he never discussed LaValle very much. I know he was, when he came back to Auburn, I know we all went, oh, you know what I mean, because this guy was there.
Yeah.
And he was very much disliked in Auburn too,
Was Dad just frustrated? Was he unable to affect change? Because he was physically not well, yet he was killing himself in effect.
No, I think it would have been good for him if he'd retired before all this happened, but you could have tell him that, because that was like quitting, So I don't think but I know he was kind of, when he knew he was coming back here and LaValle was going to be here, he didn't look forward to it.
When I was off in college, I would come back periodically, and I vividly remember a phone call where Dad had been out. It was in winter. He had come home, and he had been in the yard for the entire shift, cold. And he came and he called the commissioner's office, and I forget the commissioner of corrections in Albany, who he knew through CSEA. And he said, I'm hearing one way of the conversation, Dad is saying, "He's trying to kill me. He's trying to kill me." And whoever it was on the other end of the line was hearing a grievance from our father. But it wasn't a hopeless call, but it was a painful call. And I thought, and then,
Well, see, he probably would talk to him, but he wouldn't talk to us, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because he's afraid you'd cause a little bit of an upset stir,
Yeah. But it must have been bordering on desperation to be physically not well and realize that
Yes, and
your
there
work
was
is.
that.
You know,
Because really, in Woodburn, I can remember the day he arrived and said, "Oh, hello, how are you?" When he got bounced down at Woodburn,
And that was LaValle.
and he came in and he said, "I've come up to see Jack Foster," and so I said, "No, so Jack Foster, you know what I mean?" And so then he told me what had happened in Woodburn, you know, and so on and so on. And I think that was a very, very devastating thing to him, that whole thing, you know. And it was.
Mm-hmm.
It was stupid.
yeah.
And that was LaValle that was the,
Yes. Yeah.
that had fired him.
Right. And so, I mean, he talked to Jack. Jack says, "And play it cool right now." He says, you know what I mean? And just see how far he carries this, you know, LaValle. And so he stayed here for quite a few days, and then he went back. But you people were in on the whole thing down there.
Oh,
He was fired because he was riding horses, you know, out in the mountains to do fire trails.
Well, I thought it was because somebody took off.
Well, he was in charge of this group of inmates because they
Uh-huh.
were building fire trails. And one of the guys took off while he was alone out there with his crew.
Yes.
And so he took the rest of the crew back to the prison, which was the right
Instead
procedure.
of chasing the guy.
Right, right.
That's why it was so stupid. I mean,
So-
the warden was.
Mhm.
I mean, they could have all taken off, you know.
Right.
sure. Yeah.
But,
And he followed the policy, but he was fired.
yeah.
And then the bad part was that all the other prison guards supported him.
And I
And
know
when
they
they
did.
fired him and he wasn't going to get any pay, they all collected money in little yellow envelopes, Rick. I don't know if you
Oh
ever
my
remember.
gosh, really?
Each man would write his name on it and put $2 in, and then they brought all this money over to him.
Oh my gosh.
And it was so touching that each prison guard had put $2 in an envelope with his name, because he always wanted to remember who it was. And that showed their great support for
They
him.
supported him,
And then
yeah.
eventually when it got cleared, he gave them back their money, but
Is
it
that
was a
right?
great show of support. Because everyone in the community was so upset because it could have happened to anyone.
Well, certainly the warden was wrong. And I mean, but the thing of it
Uh-huh.
is, you know,
And you know, he caught a lot of inmates that had escaped. He had an excellent record because every time, if you caught someone, your reward was you'd get a day off or something. So he'd had a lot of, you know, experience, and he knew how to deal with this. But it was really disrespectful for them to do that.
What year did that happen?
The year we bought the piano, because we bought the piano the same day. So I can't remember. We bought the piano the day that he got, you know, fired.
So we're talking about the 50s.
well, it was
Yeah.
such a shocker because your father wasn't a person that couldn't handle a job. You know what I mean? And that's why it was so shocking, the whole
Yeah.
thing. And I wanted to see him blow the place right up, expose the whole Department of Correction. But he said he had to, you know, well, he had to see what was going to happen, because at that point, when he came up that day, he'd just been fired and he didn't know what was going to happen. But
Why do I think it was the summer of 53?
Maybe 53.
Because we moved to Auburn in '53, right? So would have preceded that?
You did. You moved to Auburn in 53.
We were living in Liberty when he got fired, because that's where we bought the piano. So.
Yeah. Because I went down and picked up you 3 kids
Mm-hmm.
and brought you to Auburn, and they were going to move up.
Mm-hmm.
And when I left, they were so sad that because your kids were little.
Yeah, but that could have happened any year, because every year you were bringing us to Auburn.
Yeah. But it was like saying goodbye to Liberty. I remember that. It was like, you know. And I had a new car. That's why I remember it was 53 that your Paul had helped me buy. And I wasn't a great driver, but I proceeded to drive to Liberty. And I think my father, who always would never teach me to drive, was like, I'm letting her take these precious children to Auburn. And I was, well, why not? You know. I remember they were glad when I called and said that we were there safely.
There were some trying years. We forgot him. God, right? You remember that, do you, Rick?
No, I don't.
You don't remember that.
He was 2 years old, 3 years
Yeah.
old.
Yeah, but I've heard the stories.
Yeah.
You know, and how painful it was. It must have been very difficult for him, who was such a proud person.
Oh, definitely. Oh, I never saw that. That thing almost killed him.
Yeah, yeah.
I think he felt a little better after he talked to Jack, because Jack tried to calm him down, you know what I mean? Instead of don't do anything drastic right now, you know what I mean?
I remember he came to Aha's and he'd sit in the kitchen table and bite his fingernails,
Yes,
and he was depressed. He was so mad.
He,
So mad.
Well, he was mad because you couldn't, who could you turn to?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, it was awful.
but it's so bad. Then when he came to Auburn, I thought, oh no, he's going to be here.
And it must have been frustrating for him to know that throughout his career, he always worked for men that were less capable than he was.
Right, right.
Even, you know, with Vinnie Mancusi, it was such a shame. And people always said that Dad, you know, if he only had had the education,
Right.
that was the only thing. He didn't have the paper and he hadn't gone to war.
Yes, those are the two negative.
Because he wasn't,
Things.
he was going to go to war, but the war ended. So he was always being supervised by people that knew less than he did. So that had to be frustrating year after year.
They used to say Dad had forgotten more than Vinnie Mancusi knew.
He was?
He had forgotten more than Vinnie Mancusi knew. And Vinnie became superintendent.
Yeah, right, right.
You better edit some of this.
But at the same time, I remember Mother saying after the big fiasco at Attica, when Vinnie suffered so much, that she was glad that my father hadn't lived to see what happened to Vinnie, because he would have been so devastated, because they were still dear friends.
Yes, right, right.
But she said the only good thing is your father isn't around to see what happened at Attica. It just would have broken his heart, you know, because Vinnie was really not to blame. And so it's interesting how the prison affects people's lives.
Well, like, Rick, you know, the last time I saw Dick, God love him, Paul and I were going up to Canada on a vacation. And that morning, Dick came over before I left. And we had built the house, and it had only been built a couple of years. And right across the garage and the cement floor, there was a crack. So he was going to bring Earl Irish over to check on the crack. Who rides but Dick and Earl to find out what we're going to do about this crack. It's got to be dug up, it's to be made right. And so we sat there, we talked about it. So I said, well, so when I said goodbye to him, I said, well, make up your mind what you want to do and go ahead, because I said, we got an account here, you know, and so on and so forth. And so when I come back, he was dead. And I said it was the saddest thing, because it was the last conversation we had with the crack in the drive. But he was like that. The things bothered him, you know, like that. Yeah. And it didn't bother me. I always drive the car, and I don't know what difference it make a crack in it. And but he was, that annoyed him, you know, to think that there's crack. And so Earl got brought over to check on it to tell him what to do about it.
Well, that annoyed him, but like the fact that we didn't have any walls, that didn't seem to annoy him.
You didn't have any what?
Any walls upstairs.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Different things bother different people.
Funny times. Funny times.
You know, it's awful to be in a job, though, and know that you were right and you can't do anything about it. It must be terrible frustrating.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Because, of course, it happens all the time. I mean, it isn't anything unusual, but it's, you know.
The only good thing is that all his colleagues supported him, so that had to be a good feeling.
Right, right. Well, that was.
But even then, it doesn't help.
Right, right.
And we have a lot of the papers from this era still that we have at home. Letters he wrote, responses to letters. So.
In fact, where was that information? Was that in the family archives,
Yeah.
or you dug that out?
Yeah, I have that, and I've always saved it, and we thought Mike would be interested in reading it too. Because he was an excellent writer. Remember what an articulate writer he was?
Oh, yeah, right.
And he had beautiful penmanship, but when he wrote a letter, it was so, his language was so sophisticated. And, so we've got a lot of good evidences.
Well,
of
it's
his
funny, Rick, I have
correspondence.
a deacon that comes from Sacred Heart, doesn't belong to our church. And he served his time on the prison too, because he knows Mike, and he knew Polly, and he's all down to the line, And he, once in a while, we'll get to talking about the prison, and he'll tell me, like, he knew Vinnie Mancusi too, and all them people, that were down there in Albany at the time. And then he got transferred to Albany eventually, so he ended up in Albany, and so on and so forth. And he was telling me, he said, oh, the system, he said, isn't always right, And we weren't talking about this, but I mean, it was other things we were discussing. And but it's interesting to listen to some of the things sometimes when you sit there and talk with him, because he served under a lot of these guys in the prison, and how they all reacted to things. Well, look at the time they gave poor Michael, for God's sakes, when he first went to Albany. My God, and Mike is the calmest person in the world as far as,
But Dad had a big responsibility because he was in charge of that whole cell block, those tiers. And whenever
the E-block?
whenever there were visitors, they'd bring them to his tier.
Mr. Clean, they called him.
Mr. Clean.
Because I know when I went through the prison once, the guy said, where is cell block E? And so they took me, and I said, my brother used to be in charge of the cell. Well, this is Mr. Clean.
Clean up nut, the inmates used to.
And they didn't have anything to do, have him polish the bars.
Yeah. Well, I think the inmates really respected him.
They did, Pat. They did. I always remember the time of your flood. We brought a lot of clothes up from Corning, to put them through the thing. And he had this one inmate that was working at the cleaning place down on the corner of Clark and State Street. So he said, I'll take him down there, and we'll have him clean. And so he did. And then thereafter, we used to go to this inmate for several things. And I know about 6 months later, he was a trustee anyways, and he was going to be discharged in New York. And I know one morning he said, I got to be on duty this morning. He and another guard went down and picked the guy up and took him to the train and put him on. I mean, they did have people that were, that they respected as far as they go. But this guy was always telling me what a great person Dick was, and of course, because I used to take the clothes in, and but.
I heard a story that once one of his inmates was accused of doing something, and my father thought he was innocent. So the officers would put a sock over the lock, which meant the person had to stay in the cell. It was like a punishment. And my father was convinced that it was an unjust accusation. So when it was during his shift, he went in and he whipped off the sock as a protest. So he wouldn't abide by what his superiors had said, which must have endeared him to the administration, of course. But he just took justice into his own hands. And I always got the impression, too, that the difficult men who were vulnerable for getting beat up, a lot of gay guys, were put into his block because he would protect them. And so they had a lot of confidence in him.
Well, that reminds me of one down the Marianne Chapin worked with her. Her husband Lee was a prison guard with Paul. This is at Polly's time, and he was telling, when you said your father did that, he sounds like his nephew. He said Marianne one day Lee was finally going to retire, and he was young, but he was hurt and on the elevator. I mean, one of the inmates, and so he took up before the council, and they said, well, they have to have some more proof. So Polly went to bat for him. Mary Ann said to me, if it wasn't for Polly, he wouldn't be getting a pension. But Polly went in and said, this man was injured by an inmate. And so and so. But see, they always put up a fight for, they didn't fight for the guards, they fought for these things. So anyways, he's still on retirement. He's retired now, but he's still on. But he was young. He was only only been in a few years, But he was injured. But no, I think your father's respected in the prison. I really do. I got so mad one time. They're in an uprising down there, which I had very often. It was on this guy, and I'm trying to think which one it was, on the Syracuse station. And he was telling what was going on at Auburn Prison and how they were, marching in front of the prison and all this. And there's a few of them didn't come out. Now, some of them, like Officer Corcoran and somebody, went out the back door. I was so mad, I wrote him a letter.
Good for you.
I said, picked him up and he came out the front door, and don't tell me he went out. But I mean, somebody just, it wasn't true. So, but they had to go through the line, to come out the front door, and they were saying that they were afraid to come through the line, but he came out the front door, I picked him up.
See? Of course, he died when he was 59, so he probably should have gone out the back door. Right?
Right, Pip, that's what I
Oh, gosh. Oh, that's neat. That's neat.
Well, I don't think it's the most pleasant place to work in the world, but nevertheless, I mean, if you...
Yeah, difficult.
Wonder what he would think now, knowing that Mike is superintendent at Meridian. I bet he would be so proud, don't you?
Yeah, I do too, God.
We've had some great stories, guys.
We have.
Peg, you have refreshed.
We've forgotten all the stories we've had in our lifetime.
Yesterday, Peg forgot some of her tragedies. Remember yesterday?
Yeah.
You forgot about the fire?
Yeah.
I laughed when somebody said something drastic in your life. I go, good God, my house burned down. I can't remember it.
That's good, though. That's good.
That's very funny.
Did we tell about, we were going to tell about Peg coming to my wedding reception. Did we get that?
No. Do we have enough?
We have time. We have time.
Oh, Peg,
Peg,
tell
that's
about
such
Jeannie's wedding.
a good
Your part
story.
in Jeannie's wedding.
I don't remember that.
Yes, okay. Well, the night before, you did my hair in curlers.
Oh, yes, I know. I remember what happened.
Oh, yes.
She's trying to forget, but she remembers.
The day before Jeannie was married, Rick, I had a miscarriage. That was a nice thing to do. But in the meantime, before I had this miscarriage, I'm not doing Jeannie's hair for the wedding. See, she's at my house.
Yes.
And I'm doing her hair, and then all of a sudden everything goes kaplook. And I have to get the doctor right away, and Jeannie, wreck, she goes out the back door.
I got curlers in my hair. Peg's on her way to the hospital.
And so Jafari comes and says, well, you have to go to the hospital. And I said, I can't go to the hospital. I got to go to a wedding. And he said, well, you won't go to a wedding under these conditions. So anyways, I ended up in the hospital. So that night, one of the prison guards showed Dick down there. And Dick said, I knew exactly who he was talking about when he said his wife was a nurse at Mercy Hospital, And she said, I saw the funniest thing today. She said, we had a patient come in and she was here with a blood transfusion. He says, and eating spaghetti and meatballs. Well, I wanted to get out, see, and I didn't eat anything Jamie put in front of me. So give me the spaghetti and meatballs. So anyways, the next morning, the wedding arrives. Patty and Jeannie and all the courters.
The whole wedding party went to the hospital.
Right from the church.
right.
We went right to the hospital.
All coming through the hospital. And so
With my gown, my flowers.
My green dress that Jean made for me.
Yeah.
And so we're all there in great shape and talking. So we're talking to him. So Dick says to me, Cheryl said, don't you get out of that bed. And Dick said, you'll be at the reception this afternoon, won't you? And I said, yes, I'll be there. So I said, that's I said, give me something to eat so I can get out of this thing and do what you have to do just to get me out. So they did. And about 1 o'clock, I was ready to go to the reception. So when I walked into the Springside, I think everyone went,
Oh, Peg was a hit of the day. Oh my God, she's here. And she looked beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
it was so funny because Kathy Smith, and you were talking about her, you know, and she was over to your house that night before.
Yeah.
Because they were having the party, you know, the
The rehearsal, yeah.
And so they were all over there because nobody expected I was going to appear on the scene, but I got there, Rick.
Boy.
I remember coming home and Mrs. Sullivan, my babysitter, she was there at the house, and I said to her, okay, so the two older ones can go to the movies with somebody that was there that was going to take them, and she was going to take care of the baby, and I was going to the wedding.
Yeah. And you just had a miscarriage the night before.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There's that determined, stubborn streak
Yeah, that's right.
in all of you.
right.
In all of us.
You can do what you have to do, Rick. So we got there, didn't we, Jean?
You sure did. Yeah.
It wouldn't have been a marriage without you, so.
That's right. That's right. And I can remember Francis Murphy was driving the car that Joe and I were in.
Oh, was he?
And he headed to the hospital. And it seemed to me, Joe said, where are we going? Because we were going in a different direction. And I said, we're going to the hospital. And he was, what? Yeah. And then the other people, the bridesmaids and best men, they had no idea what had happened to you, you know, and here we were all marching into the hospital.
That's right, Jean. There was a dramatic moment for you, wasn't it?
Oh dear, that was funny. So when did they let us in, you know?
But Charlotte was so funny. She said, don't you get out of that bed. And no, I won't.
Dear.
So,
And that was such a day because we were all staying with Aha, my bridesmaids and I,
yeah.
and she was being so good, you know. And here's Peg in the hospital. She wanted to be with Peg. And then there was a wedding, and she was like, oh, what next, you know? And there were your kids that needed her.
I was supposed to help with rehearsal dinner, but I never got to it.
Oh. And you were supposed to do my hair the
Yes.
morning of the wedding, and I remember everybody was trying to help me, and I was saying, oh, where's Peg? We didn't tell Aha. I remember now. We didn't tell Aha because we were afraid that she would be so upset.
Yeah.
And she was, you know, she went to the rehearsal party, and she was in
Wondering
the
why
house.
we weren't there.
Yeah, and she would say, where's Peg? You know, she was kind of annoyed with you. And it wasn't until, I think, after the wedding we told her, and then she was like, oh my God, you know.
We always did things dramatically, didn't we? It was really unbelievable.
That was so funny. And then Peg had a fur coat, a gorgeous fur coat. And so when I'm leaving to go on our honeymoon, you insisted that I take your fur coat. And I said, no, I'll lose it, somebody will steal it. No, you have to take the fur coat. So I took her fur coat, and out we went. And I remember being so afraid somebody would steal it. And I always put it on the bed, so I keep my eye on that coat. I was so relieved to get it back to you.
Oh, that's great.
And we had some fun in life, didn't we?
Oh my, we did. We've been talking about, you know, over probably 80 years, 90 years of time.
Right.
You know, when Mother and Dad first met in Parker Street, and then,
Right.
you know, we've gone through the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, 50s.
You did a great job, Pat. Those pictures.
Oh, we went through the albums, and that
Oh, good.
stimulated a lot of memories.
Oh my God.
Right.
People we hadn't seen in years.
She put some names on people that we
Good.
didn't know.
Good. Oh,
Yes.
that's wonderful. Well, that's what they're for people to
That's neat.
enjoy.
Well, we did this morning. We enjoyed them. Yeah. So here we are on September 1st, 200.
Charlotte's birthday. Happy birthday.
2006, Mother's birthday.
Your grandmother's birthday, Yolanda.
So neat.
So baby Charlotte should remember this date, right?
That's right. She would have been, what, 97 today?
97. Her namesake would be 97 years old today.
Oh, for God's sake.
But you know what's nice? In our mind, we remember her being much younger and
Right.
beautiful and healthy, and that's the good part, right?
Yeah.
But who knows? If she were 97, she'd probably be the same. Who knows?
This is true.
You never know.
Yeah.
Well, I like her a little bit older. She used to make apple crisp.
Ooh.
She'd call up, you know, around 11:30, and she'd say, "I just made an apple crisp, and I'll be up to lunch. Don't worry."
She loved that when you would come up to lunch.
Yeah, and have cottage cheese and
Yeah.
peaches.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if she hadn't run into that Arab surgeon at Strong, she probably still would have been here, right?
The guy that couldn't aim straight, right?
Yeah.
What can you do?
What can you do?
But she's probably in a better place. We hope she's in a better place.
Oh, I'm sure she is.
Getting a smile.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think she would be so proud of her family,
Yeah.
you know, of all you kids and how well
Well,
you
she'd be
have
proud
done.
of all of you because you've all done so well, Lord.
And the main thing is we
Yeah.
stuck together, which
Yeah.
which is what she wanted.
Mhm.
That was one of the last things she said, don't let anything happen. Don't want any arguments or anything. You just make sure these kids are
That's right.
together. And that's the way it was.
Yeah.
Always.
Well, Peg, we're getting down towards the end of the tape. In terms of little Charlotte and Mother Charlotte,
In terms of our mother Charlotte and baby Charlotte,
Oh, God.
now, what can we say to baby Charlotte?
Oh, God, love her. You had the most wonderful grandmother you could ever imagine, Rick. She was kind, she was good-hearted, and she was lovable. And she really was. She was the nice person. Charlotte was more than a sister-in-law to me. She was a friend, you know. And I hope you'll always remember that.
She was very, very special. Very special.
And despite your father's oddities, he loved his children dearly. He really did. And so it was and we had so many happy times because of the two of them, honest. Even with them disagreeing. I can remember one time you were, I guess it was you or Mike, I think it was you. He called me up one day, he says, "Can you give the kids a ride to the little league, you know, at the lake, you know?" And I said, sure. He said, "I haven't got my keys or something." But anyways, he and Charlotte had a dispute, and I had the keys. And I didn't know this thing. I didn't know this, so I go over very nicely, pick up, it was you or Mike, I don't know what I went down 3rd Avenue and took him to the lake, you know, the thing, and I said, "I'll pick you up," you know. And then, but I got home, and I don't know how many of them, and Charlotte called up, and she gave me hell for coming over and picking him up. I said, "I didn't know what she was mad at your father." And she hid the keys, and they were having an argument, and Mike wasn't going to, or Rick, whoever, whichever one it was, wasn't going to play that night. I said, "Well, I'm so sorry, but I didn't know that there was any reason why they couldn't get there."
He was using you, Peg, right?
oh gosh,
Oh, dear.
colorful and stormy, huh?
Right?
Colorful and stormy.
Yes.
Oh.
So what do we call little Charlotte? We call her, what does Maeve say?
Charlotte baby cakes.
Charlotte
Oh.
baby cakes.
Baby cake.
Yeah, that's what little Charlotte calls herself, right?
Yep.
Charlotte baby cakes.
Oh, isn't that cute? Oh my
And then
God.
doesn't Maeve say Charlotte or
Charlotte,
Charlotte?
Oh God, oh God.
do you want to talk to Charlotte?
You know, Rick, other than the baby, I don't know anybody by the name of Charlotte. You know,
Yeah.
it isn't a common name, you know.
Yeah, and that's why it's so special for us. Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Yes.
Isn't that cute?
Well, we have to give Alexa and Ricky you know, lots of strokes because they chose a beautiful name for
That's
their
right,
daughter.
that we all liked.
Yeah, we all like, yeah,
And we love Maeve dearly too, and Charlotte is great.
yeah. Super. Thanks, Peg. Thank
Oh,
you.
honey, I don't know what I did to help you.
Oh, it was wonderful.
Oh, you
Wonderful.
did a great
Bravo.
job.
Bravo.
Yay,
It's been a
Peg.
great weekend, and I certainly have enjoyed every minute of it.
Oh, it's been great. It's been great. And you're
Well, there's nobody you can talk over the past with except your own family, because I
Right.
mean, nobody's really interested in what we did in our lifetime.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
right.
But so many great stories.
So,
And your memory is amazing.
well, thank God for that, Rick. Because
Oh,
when you
God.
come out of these things, sometimes your memory isn't too good.
And your ability to do math in your head is much faster than ours. Than mine. I don't know what anybody else.
Right.
I admit that. I admit that. No, it's been great.
Oh, my.
And we'll keep the conversation going as we get. I'm sure there's a lot more questions, and
Yeah.
we'll come together and we'll, if you're okay, we'll keep
Yeah,
doing it. You know?
It's been fun. It really has, because I mean, who can you talk to but your own family? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's
It's-
right.
Yeah.
True.
And you're just such a favorite, dear aunt to us.
Right, right.
So we just love you so much. And so this is so good for us too. Even though we may have heard the story so many times. You know,
They're
it's
still
so-
funny, aren't they, Pat? Some of them are
yeah.
unbelievable.
Yeah. Uh-huh. And so it's so kind of you to do this for us.
Well, I'm so glad because the Ricky's so interested, because usually then the boys, you don't get so much interest, you know, as you do with the girls.
Mm,
That's great.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jean, final thoughts?
This has been a wonderful time. It's been
terrific.
great fun sharing Peg. And so many of these things, we were
Yeah.
there.
So we know you weren't making them up.
That's right, we were making them up.
So if there's one advantage of being old, this is it. I can relate. It's
There.
been great.
Good. Sister Pat?
Oh, well, I'm just so grateful, and I'm hoping we can do this again, Peg.
Well, I certainly do too. This is a wonderful idea, Rick, and I couldn't imagine what was going to come out of it when you called.
You're such a good sport.
But I'm
It's been
so glad.
So much fun.
I'm so glad to see you, Yolanda.
No, I'm so glad I got to see you.
Okay, yo,
as soon
lady.
as I heard that you were here, I just had to come over and see
I'm so
you.
glad, honey.
Oh.
So these are your final thoughts, Yolanda, coming in.
I think, being 44 now, and just hearing these stories are so amazing, and just trying to remember to tell my own kids. And what an honor. I have to tell you, Mom, what an honor to be adopted by this family. I have just,
Well,
know
don't you
how
think we
close
can hold our
are.
breath when she adopted you? Because your grandfather wanted to get to Rochester that night.
That is the one thing that I didn't get to miss out, was to meet Grandpa. But just knowing Grandma and Jeannie and you, and growing up, going to Auburn and just
Oh, well, we used
Meeting
to love having
everybody.
you come in. We had to put the red carpet out when you were coming along.
You were a gift to our family. You were. You
I
and
remember
Rod.
how scared I was, but I was so excited. Oh,
August
just
17,
so-
right?
yeah.
August 17.
August 17th.
I used to
right?
enjoy
Yoli's
going to
birthday.
your house.
Oh,
The same
that's
as
good. You
Dad's.
have the same birthday.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
As Dick.
Cute little
uh,
10-year-old gal, right?
Right, and she's still cute.
And she's a
bigger.
cute little 44-year-old gal.
Oh, that's great.
Yes.
Okay, gang. Well done. Thank you all very much.
And thank you, Rick.
Oh, gosh, a
Have we
privilege.
Rick, have we got you on there? Can
Oh.
we swing that baby around?
I'm going to be doing some of the editing on it, so I'll throw my 2 cents
Oh,
in. But
all right.
this has exceeded my expectations.
Oh, very
Right?
good, Rick.
It's just fabulous. Fabulous, and we're very indebted.
Oh, indeed.
Oh, great. It's a terrific thing, Rick. It really.
It is. And then we're done.
Beg of my heart, I love you, don't let us part. I love you, I always knew it would be you. Since I heard your lifting laughter, it's your Irish heart I'm after. Beg of my heart, your glances make my heart say, how Francis, come be my own. Come make your home in my heart. Ooh, just a dream of love.